I was literally standing in front of my toilet and still managed to piss myself. Ask Reddit on Reddit Rundown. When did your body betray you? Stick around to the end, the last story is a long, but interesting one. At 21, I learned I am a literal mutant, but instead of it giving me cool superpowers, my body develops tumors. Somebody replied, "You have the amazing power of accelerated replication." Which sounds cooler than it is. When I used to do a lot of long distance cycling, I would do some leg training in the winter so I'm ready by spring. Well, one time after doing a workout, I couldn't get up from the toilet. Like my legs just stopped working. It was pretty bad. Somebody replied, "I had literally this exact thing happen to me after a 24-hour martial arts marathon in university. The next day, instead of resting, my dumb ass decides to go out and play a game of ultimate frisbee with some guys from the dorm I was staying in. After we finished, we all sat down in a circle and chatted for about 30 minutes, and when it was all finished and everyone got up to leave, I literally couldn't move. My legs had seized up so completely that they just stopped functioning altogether, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get them to work. I had to have someone actually pull me to my feet in order to start walking home. And yes, it did result in permanent damage. My doctors tell me I put down some scar tissue in my leg muscle, and now I have very limited stamina for any exercise that uses my quads/thighs, as my muscles start burning almost immediately. I discovered at 19 that I have a gene mutation that causes random melanoma tumors in my body. I'm 37 and I've had cancer 8 times. My meat suit is a dumpster fire. Me and a similarly disabled friend spoke about this months back. They said that the difference between disabled and non-disabled people really boils down to this: abled people can trust their body. They can trust it to have energy, to fight off sickness, for the kidneys or heart or lungs to work. And many disabled people don't have that luxury. They have to be constantly ready for it to break down. It's like driving a shitmobile on an empty highway and just praying you make it to the next gas station. They said that was the most infuriating thing about the COVID response, that so many people took their body's vigor for granted. First week of December during grade 9 I got really bad flu. We're talking I couldn't even keep down a little bit of water. Fast forward 1 month and I feel very odd. I'm drinking tons of water and passing like a racehorse. I pee the bed occasionally. My mother says I look like I'm going to die. We go to the doctor, and after a blood check, I'm found to have a blood sugar level of 25 millimoles/L. I am then diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and sent to the hospital to get my sugar under control, as well as get educated on what's happening to myself. That's where the doctor told me how I most likely got the disease. See, nobody in my extended family, and I mean not a single person, has type 1, so that immediately rules out it being hereditary. The doctor says, it's mostly a theory but seems to be the main observed reasoning behind it. But when you were sick your body overreacted to destroying the illness, and the little cells in your pancreas that create insulin, well, they look kind of like foreign bodies, so your immune system went in and cleared them out. For a time, you'll still have some natural insulin production, but your body will eventually kill the rest. Moral of the story: a diet does not cause type 1. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, that's type 2. Your body is capable of amazing things. It can heal up almost any wound as long as it's given enough time, but it can also do a lot of harm to itself accidentally. And see, anyone can get type 1. It's just a matter of the body overreacting to an illness, then targeting the pancreas. At 25 years old, I had my first ever seizure. It was a 10-minute grand mal seizure, in a restaurant, no less. Almost 14 years later, numerous med combos, dozens of seizures, side effects, and a brain surgery later, no answers. It sucks to know there is no cure, side effects are monstrous, and people don't understand because you don't look sick, but after they hear the words epilepsy or seizure disorder, let me tell you, you've never seen people run so fast. However, I am currently 23 months seizure-free on my current med combo. I have maintained my career successfully over the last 16 years, and I am going back for my second master's degree program in January. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. My joints randomly dislocate. Just yesterday, I dislocated my sternum. Yes, that's a thing. Earlier this week, I subluxated my left shoulder and my left hip. On different instances. I loved eating apples, pears, and cherries until I became allergic at age 22. Mild symptoms including an itchy throat means it is no longer worth the taste. Sad times. Somebody replied. Me too. It's called an oral allergy. I can't eat any fresh fruit with a core, apples and pears, or a pit, cherries, peaches, etc. Started at puberty with cherries and slowly the list grew over the years. It sucks because my symptoms aren't even that bad, but if you keep pushing it, your body can develop an anaphylactic response. I turned 29 this year. A few weeks ago, I noticed that getting up in the middle of the night to pee is a nightly occurrence. Since then, I've tried limiting my water consumption 30 minutes before bed, then an hour, now an hour and a half. I still get up in the middle of the night to pee no matter what. It's been systematically betraying me since forever, lol. I was born with a small birth defect where my ankle bone didn't separate properly or had some kind of extra bone, don't remember specifics, but we didn't find out until after years of ankle pain usually thought to just be sprains. A massive cyst formed over top of it and displaced my nerves. I had surgery at 16 to remove the whole mess. Post-surgery, I suffered opiate withdrawals and barely slept for weeks. Last year, I developed fibromyalgia, so I wake up every morning feeling like I just got out of a car crash. These last 2 months, I had some kind of persistent vomiting for a good while. Still having trouble eating. Still haven't figured it out. And, oh yeah, on top of that, my body regrew the ankle bone coalition that was removed 4 years ago. I think I killed my body's father in a past life. I have a horrible tendency to shit when I am stressed. I played in a rugby 10s tournament where I had 5 matches a day and I shat my brains out before every match. This has never left me. My first job in a new country was in a call center. I was wearing my shit suit and walked into the lobby. The first step I let out a fart. It was not a fart. Fuck. I ignore the receptionist saying hello and find a loo on the right. My pants heavy, I stumble over. I depants myself and take off my shit heavy underwear. There is a ledge above the bog so I put my sodden underwear on the ledge. Head out to deal with the dehumanizing experience that is a call center. The day went well, with my member chaffing on my cheap suit pants. I remembered to go collect my shame in the loo but alas some poor bastard beat me to it. It was a dark and stormy day in 7th grade, the teacher reading off a list of names to see who presents next. She is getting closer and closer to my name and I am fighting to stay awake, then I hear it, Severing Zeus 691 please present your slideshow. I go up and start listening off facts of God knows what and then I notice, everyone seems to be focusing on me and giggling. I look down and there it is, a boner. I thought, how could I be betrayed by my own body? I'm a woman, and I have 3 man hairs that grow on my chin. They're what would be beard hair if I was a guy. I pull them out whenever I notice them but they keep coming back. Had a crush on a girl in junior high. That summer I saw her at the lake. In a bikini. I was staring and she saw me and came over to say hello. Needless to say, my body betrayed me. In a very obvious way. To her credit she played it off pretty well. When it decided to piss my pants standing in front of a toilet. Years ago, I went to this music festival with a lot of day drinking. As I was leaving, I had to pee, but the porta potty lines were really long, so I decided to hold it in until I got back to my apartment. The train ride was fine for the most part, but by the time I got to my stop I had to go really bad. Still had a 10-minute walk to my apartment, but I figured I could make it if I just walked really fast. As I reach my front door, I get a sense of relief that I made it, but I was really about to burst, so I hurried through and ran to the bathroom. I get there and as I'm unzipping my pants, my body decides it can't take it anymore, starts peeing. I was literally standing in front of my toilet and still managed to piss myself. Luckily there was nobody around, but I am still really embarrassed that happened to me. 25. I started throwing out my back to the point of not being able to walk frequently. I have moderate scoliosis. Chiropractors and weightlifting saved me, and now I'm better in my body at 34 than I was in my early 20s. Take care of your back and build strength, youths. Side note, if you're a woman who is insecure about your weight, just know that crash dieting will weaken you, and it's way worse on your joints to be weak than it is to be a little tubby but strong AF. Lifting won't bulk you without extraordinary effort. Of course, a healthy weight is good, but don't mistake thinness above all else with health or happiness. Halloween, 2014. Felt great, getting ready to go to work when suddenly I'm puking. Puke for 3 days. Have been nauseous for 6 years now, waves of intensity, but it's never gone. About 4x a year, I have 3-day-long puke fests. Randomly throw up, too. Wear a transderm patch and a relief band all day, every day, to be minimally functional. Survive on ginger ale. I don't even like ginger ale, oh, and my body won't tell the doctors what the hell is wrong with me, so no diagnosis. On the plus side, if you need some tricks for calming down nausea, please ask, I know them all. Having a hide and seek Nerf game with friends. I am in the basement behind the shelf. All of the sudden I let out the loudest, longest, smelliest fart I have ever had. They heard. I lost. On the night before my wedding, I got the worst food poisoning imaginable, made the mistake of having ice in my drink in a country where the water was not safe to drink, and spent the entire night and the majority of my wedding day puking and shitting uncontrollably. It was a destination wedding, just my husband and I, all alone in a hotel in beautiful foreign country, the language of which we did not speak. Luckily, we had the most amazingly kind hotel staff do everything they could to help us, whilst laughing hysterically pretty much the entire time. I was so sick that I actually lost several pounds and had to be sewn into my wedding dress the next because it was falling off of me. I was too weak to stand, much less walk, so I was carried to my wedding and literally held up for the ceremony by the hotel staff. We had to pause saying our vows several times so that I could vomit into a bucket. I obviously was unable to eat any of my beautiful wedding cake, drink a glass of champagne, or consummate my marriage on my wedding night. It was awful, but we laugh about it now. My husband calls it our shit show of a wedding. A year ago, I had a slight head cold and flew home for Christmas. My ear was clogged and wouldn't pop. I landed and still couldn't get it to pop. 3 specialist visits later, they're like, yeah, something is messed up but we don't know how to fix it. Living with an ear that won't pop is a special kind of hell. I can do neti pots or have a great yawn where it will be clear for a couple seconds but then it just closes again. Somebody replied, there is nothing more terrifying than a doctor telling you they don't know what something is. I had that happen with a rash on my leg. Went in to show the doctor, she didn't know what it was, so she kept prescribing me all this cream. It got so big, dark and itchy. She finally took a picture and sent it to a doctor in Ottawa. It was a fungal infection. That happened 2 years ago and I still have discoloration on my skin. Good times. One morning I woke up and had lost control of my eyes. Each eye was doing its own thing. I got to spend 3 days in the hospital, have a CT scan, an MRI, and a visit with a specialist to have everyone shrug at me. Eventually they settled down on their own and are working together as a team again. I was a functioning alcoholic for a long time. To my detriment, I became quite good at hiding my drinking. That is, until the alcoholic pancreatitis, the swollen liver, and the .50 BAC when I was brought to the hospital. Addiction isn't a joke. That all was 8+ years ago. I'm 7 years into my sobriety journey with 5 years of full sobriety. When I was at the dentist to extract my wisdom teeth, I got so nervous during the procedure, even though there was no pain due to the anesthetics, that my legs started shaking uncontrollably. It was very embarrassing. Somebody replied, same thing happened to me, but it was my whole body, like a never-ending shiver, embarrassing AF. Never really betrayed me so much as never let me have expectations in the first place. But my biggest irritation was when my thyroid issue worsened to the point where it fucked with my blood pressure, causing me to have trouble properly regulating my body temperature. Not the end of the world, but I had to stop jogging outdoors because the cool air resistance from my running in combination with my stretched breathing was enough to cause my body temperature to drop drastically 5 minutes into a run. And that's after my knee issues forced me to give up on sprinting and intense aerobic exercise. Halfway down a run while snowboarding, my legs decided that, nope, we are too tired to finish this last run, and buckled. Hurt like a bitch falling, and I still had to get the rest of the way down the mountain and back to my car. I cried a bit and my boyfriend told me that we could walk, but it would suck way more than riding. In high school I finished all my core classes relatively early, that in grade 11 and 12 I needed only electives really to graduate. I completed grade 12 and 11 math in the second semesters of 9 and 10 because I tend to get hyper-focused on a subject. This was my style of learning. This made me a very lazy student in grades 11 and 12 because electives weren't engaging and challenging enough to keep my attention. Sure, drama, art, creative writing, and tech/gyms were fun. I had a good time. Were they hard or challenging? No. So I found myself completing tasks and falling asleep quite often. It was really bad. I felt like I kept turning off when I wasn't doing anything intensive. So, I started picking up sciences I didn't take. In grade 11 you need one core science, and you can choose physics, bio, and chem. I took biology for 11, so I picked up chemistry and physics in an attempt to stay awake in grade 12, since I found myself shutting off almost my entire year of grade 11 electives. Grade 9 and 11 art, drama, and creative writing was a relaxing year. I graduated after doing well in only my science classes, since they were the only ones I stayed awake in. Then immediately applied to college. I was forced to go in early due to a court child support conflict with mother and father. However, that entire year was a nightmare. The classes for anatomy, nursing theory, mathematics for dosage calculations were so mind-numbingly easy I ended up falling asleep in class often. My teachers and professors would send me home, kick me out of class, or think I was sick since I'd fall asleep really quickly if I wasn't actively engaged, and lectures were so long, about 1 to 3 hours. Classmates also didn't seem to like me since I obviously did not look very hardworking but had very high grades. Eventually a teacher failed me from professional growth because of my lack of participation in class, which was about 10 or 20% of an overall grade, and I think the nursing course needed a high average to pass it all in specific classes. Turns out it was my college science tutor friend that pulled me aside and recommended me to see the on-campus nurse. Considering he had once watched me wake up for our lecture recess or break for 15 minutes and found me passing out in a few seconds to be terribly disturbing and abnormal. In nursing theory, I even fell asleep as the teacher directly spoke to me. I assumed the class was so easy and boring that I couldn't even focus on her words and fell asleep right in front of her. I got very used to finger snapping to wake me up out of my stupor of dreamlike state to even pay attention for 5 more minutes. I felt like I was a head-bobbing druggie. I decided it wouldn't hurt to see our free nurse, so I paid her a visit, who then recommended me to take a sleep latency test. She gave me and my personal family doctor a recommendation, and after seeing my family doctor she booked me in. However, the clinic for sleep disorders was a very long wait, and it took me 2 years to do my testing, which was an overnight stay in a bed, hooked up to many wires while a red camera recorded you. To many this would be hard to sleep with, but I was dead like a log in seconds. Next day, I had a nap test every 30 minutes. A normal human average for falling asleep is about 6 to 7 minutes, but the specialist that watched over me for those 2 days said my average was about 1 to 2 minutes. So, my symptom was idiopathic hypersomnia. I couldn't control myself. If not engaged, my body would seemingly go into sleep mode. It was a bit concerning, and scary. It would explain why energy drinks, coffee, regular sleep cycles and hours didn't help. I'd get a proper 8 hours, drink 3 energy drinks, have a coffee and still be dead like a log in nursing classes. Teachers must have thought I was some druggie or student with bad ethics that partied all night long. But they didn't know, they couldn't have known. I'd like to think I was pretty bright. I was just so bored. The classes weren't hard enough. I'd say answers to math questions as the teacher was writing them, I recall formulas that I learned from university grade 12 math in grade 10, and that level of math was beyond anything I did in nursing, it felt like. And my body was not letting me prove this. I felt so frustrated. Like I wasn't in control. I felt like I was a walking corpse just waiting for a moment of inactivity that will force me to sleep for hours. I had an alarm on my phone to go off just in case I passed out before every class, so I'd wake up and be able to walk there and be on time. After those 2 years of waiting, getting tested, failing nursing, taking weird prescription drugs that couldn't even be properly explained how they even work, I was finally diagnosed. I had narcolepsy without cataplexy. I took computer programming and I am now a programmer. Thanks for listening to Reddit Rundown. Give a thumbs up and subscribe, and help me get to 1,000 subs. Leave a comment below on what kind of topics or stories you would like to hear. You can also check out other videos on my channel. Thanks and have an awesome day.